talk about sex for marriage.
Okay.
I think it's okay to have sex for marriage because it's an expression of love to someone, and God wants us to love people.
Yeah, God does want us to love others. But the greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. The second is to love your neighbour as yourself. So if we do have sex outside of marriage, it should firstly be because of our love for God.
What about sexual compatibility? What if I wait until marriage and we just don't connect?
Well, sexual compatibility is really a worldly idea, and it's not actually from God's teaching. It's the concept that you might marry someone and find that you have an unsatisfying or unsuccessful marriage because your partner's not good in bed. And while there could be elements of truth to that, the foundation for a marriage is not sex, it's friendship. And it's a learning process that might take time. You'll need to get comfortable with each other and learn what each other likes. It's no wonder that there's such a Christian joke in retrospect about the first night of marriage not being so great compared to later on.
Well, while I'm unmarried, if God won't take away my desire for sex or my lustful thoughts, maybe he wants me to satisfy my sex drive. Or maybe, you know what, maybe he just wants to torment me by making me wait for marriage.
Well, God hates sin, and he wants us to live a pure life out of a pure heart. So if we're blaming God for our battle with sex and sexual desires, then we really need to just stop and start again and just reflect on what his heart for us is. Now, how could you make it easier for yourself? Where is that lust coming from? A provocative TV show, sexually scripted music, pornography, making out? Are there changes you can make in your lifestyle to remove some of that temptation and frustration?
Maybe. But is sex even important?
If sex wasn't important, God wouldn't put parameters around it. Sex physically, emotionally and spiritually connects two people. God doesn't guard our use of sex because he's mean. He actually guards our use of sex because he's good. He's all good. And also he's all knowing. And that means he knows the darkness behind non-consensual sex inside and outside of marriage. And he knows the emotional pain for us when sexual relationships are broken, especially when children are involved. God wants to protect us and guide us into the best, most enjoyable sex experiences.
So how far will God let us go before marriage?
Great question. It's not specifically said in the Bible, but the Bible does tell us to flee from sexual immorality. That means we should flee from adultery, sex outside marriage. Now that doesn't mean walk as close to the line as possible, peer over the edge, but just make sure you don't fall in. No, it means do a U-turn, run in the other direction. Truthfully, how far is too far is a question that's only going to get you so far. It's more about having a heart that asks, how can I honour God with my body?
I think you're oversimplifying it.
Hey, I'm saying this from God's teaching and also personal sin. And I'm not saying it's always easy to resist sex when you desire it. But personally, it's been 1,000 times easier to resist those lustful temptations when I haven't gone past pecking and I look away during certain scenes in Bridgerton. But also, when you ask how far will God let us go, he will let you go as far as you want. We choose to follow his way or not. It's just that when we go against his way, then we have separation from God and we have to suffer the consequence for that sin. But we can absolutely be forgiven for that at any time. We can completely start anew. All we have to do is ask God for that forgiveness and make some changes in our life to live closer to God's way of living.
Okay, well, can we please just acknowledge that they got married so young in biblical times? Mary was like 13 when she married Joseph and had sex.
Oh, absolutely agree. It's no wonder Paul says in Corinthians it's better to marry than to burn with passion. Preach it, Paul.